Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show Live. It's our EFL review. I'm Stephen Brown, and with me to discuss Leeds United, we've got Jason on, Huddersfield Town, Stephen Downs, and finally to talk all things the Bantams, it is Gaz as well. Good evening, gentlemen. How are we all doing?
Good, mate.
Yes. Now, we should, full disclosure, mention we had a little team bonding session this Friday, just gone, organised by our very own Stephen Downs. It was a good night, wasn't it, lads?
Really good.
And Mr. Downs, very generous. We all ended up going home with branded West Yorkshire Football Show T-shirts as well.
Show on the back then.
We're going to be repping.
Hang on, let me just... Can you figure that out?
We get it. He loves Mark Hughes. If anybody's watched the podcast for many times, then Mark Hughes is
the man Huddersfield Town should have hired 2 years ago.
Keep saying this.
Brownie's the only Mark Hughes superfan in the whole world.
He's the only fan left, Gaz.
If you're out there, Mark, you can subscribe to the channel. Come on.
But no, it was good. The only thing I was disappointed in is that you didn't let me win at shuffleboard. But there we go. You know what I mean?
Who did win in the end, actually?
The blue, whatever the blue team was. But yeah,
I think that might be me.
Jay cheated like a true Leeds fan. Gaz disappointed.
Like a true Bradford fan.
Yeah, Gaz was so confused throughout the whole evening.
I liked it because Lewis, our non-league correspondent, he started off brilliant. I thought, hey, he's like a professional. He comes down here on his weekends off or something. And then I don't think he won for about 7 rounds after the first 2 as well. He was gutted.
Just to all our viewers, a massive shout out to Gaz, who had the worst journey probably in the whole entire world. So yeah, big shout out to Gaz for at least coming for 2 hours to Leeds, 3 hours to Leeds, all the way from Accrington.
An hour and a half it were meant to take, and it took 2.5. When you get to Keighley and you're halfway and train fails, then you've got to go rest that way, haven't you? You can't just turn around and go.
Indeed, we appreciate the effort, guys. Anyway, okay, so let's crack on then. It's our EFL review show. All our teams back in action recently. We're going to start off the show looking at Leeds United. Now, Leeds United were playing Friday night whilst we were having our team night out. So me and Jace were trying to keep an eye on the game. It was a little bit tricky, but after a good start, Somerville opening the scoring after 6 minutes, I did think at that point it was going to be a piece of cake, but didn't quite work out that way, did it, Jason?
No, I've watched a bit of content back on it. I was a little bit irritated Saturday. Like, it left me a little bit irritated. So I didn't really want to watch too much content. I didn't even really want to watch the full highlights. I mean, we'd seen bits of the game during the night Friday, like you said, and we kind of, I think, both got the feeling that it was a little bit lukewarm. We probably, like a few occasions this season, deserved to take the points, but didn't take us chances. We saw a couple of chances. I watched the full match highlights back today, like the 15 minutes extended version. And I think yet again, we find ourselves in a position where if we'd have taken the chances first half, the game's dead and buried after 30 minutes. It felt very similar to the Town game. If we'd have just taken the chances early on, we'd have won the game comfortably, and then conceding at half-time or in the second half wouldn't have mattered. But we didn't do that. We didn't make the right decisions at the right time. There were moments where we should have played somebody through and we didn't. We took a more difficult chance, the Kamara chance. Somerville should have slipped it through to Pirro. Somerville has another chance not long after the goal. Takes one touch too many and brings it too close to the keeper. Probably should have wrapped the game up. And then what do you say about the goal, really, that we concede? It's just a catalogue. It's a catalogue on top of a catalogue of errors. Somerville loses the ball in midfield. That happens as a turnover of play. Like, at the end of the day, teams lose the ball, don't they? Lose possession of the ball. Ball goes over the top. Junior Firpo's nowhere to be seen, completely out of position, and he doesn't get back into position through the whole process of the attack. It's just woeful. The ball goes over the top. Cooper's too slow to react. I mean, in Football Manager, when you've got a slow centre-back that's got like 38, 39 pace, 9 or 10 pace. And then as they get a bit older, they start dropping to the 4s and the 5s. That's where Liam Cooper's at now. I mean, he turns so slowly to try and keep up with the pass. I mean, and then after that, Ampadu makes a mistake, don't go in hard enough. Then Rodon and Archie Gray getting each other's way, and it bobbles and pops out to a Dauphin who finishes it. And I think Melier should save it. I think there's so many moments that goal could have been avoided. But then still, we had chances in the second half to win the game. They also had chances to win the game in the second half too. Cooper cleared one off the line, but again, a massive Ampadu mistake. I saw somebody say earlier that he's not been the same when he comes back from international duty. Maybe a little bit leggy. Goal ruled out for offside later on into the game. Could have clinched us the win. But we've seen this game before. We've seen it against Sheffield Wednesday. It felt a little bit like that. It felt a little bit like the Plymouth second half. Even though we won the game, we got the second goal, which won us the game, but we didn't play particularly well against them. Especially second half. We've seen it against who else have we drawn? We've seen it against QPR. QPR at home 1-0.
Sheffield Wednesday at home.
Stoke away, Birmingham away. I mean, we can kind of draw a line under that one because of the squad we out that day. But yeah, Stoke away. There's been a few like that, where if we're not playing at 100% and the pace drops, it's like we are inviting teams on to score. And again, I hark back to the Huddersfield game. It's okay to do that when you're in a position of complete dominance. You scored 4 goals, that's fine. You can give up a bit of possession or you can give your opponents the odd chance. You can't do that when you're winning 1-0. I don't think it's arrogance. I think it's instruction, a bit of it, if I'm honest. I think Daniel Farker made some mistakes going into the game. A couple of the selections I just don't understand. We're starting Jorginho Rutter, who, he's been his best player this season, but it was widely said that he had a severe injury that would leaving him a major doubt. And then he starts the game. Jed Spence, who's now been back in full-time training over a week, can't even make the squad, but Rutter starts the game as a major doubt. It just don't make any sense. And Jed Spence starting at right back would have allowed Archie Gray to come out of the team, who's leggy. He's played so much football, 17-year-old. You play Cooper and Firpo together on that side. One's defensively completely unaware, and Cooper's super slow. I mean, Cooper gets done late in the second half, and you see him looking around like, I need support, I need help. I can't, you know what you're dealing with. Cooper's not quick. So then you need somebody defensively robust alongside him. It just didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense at all. And then Stroik comes on and looks absolutely fine. So then why didn't he start the game? If he's fit enough to play 20 minutes, he's fit enough to play. I don't get it. I think Dan James, a lot of people have said that he probably shouldn't have started. I mean, his form says that he should, but when a team sits back like Rotherham do, he struggles to impact the game as much. So should he have started? Would it have been better to start Anthony or Nonto? I just think there were a few selection headaches, and I've been left a little bit kind of, like I say, irritated and flat by it. But at the same time, that all being said, perspective, it's another point on the board. It's a tough away trip. You saw the camera panning to the crowd every time something good happened from a Rotherham perspective. They were massively up for the game. They're really good at home. They've taken, I think it's 93% of all their points this season at home. Which is considerable considering the fact that they're in the bottom 3. They drew with Ipswich at home. Ipswich then went and lost on the same day. Southampton drew against Town. All in all, it wasn't a bad day for us, really, but it's a missed opportunity. I mean, there's nothing else to be said other than that, really.
No, exactly. I mean, it's difficult. I don't like to kind of get too opinionated about a game I've not watched fully, but from everything I've read, seen, heard about the game, it feels like it's definitely fit into that category of those results and performances you mentioned as well. And it's such a strange thing with Leeds. I mean, we go away to Leicester, we beat them and we play absolutely fantastic, and we struggle the next week against Plymouth. And we're just a bit topsy-turvy with it. 1 week, I'll think we're odds on for automatic here because we just look like we're on fire and we're going to steamroll the league. And then you get a game like that, and certain doubts start to appear, and we're questioning a few of Farker's decisions as well. Can you see it kind of going on like this, or do you think this will get ironed out as it goes forward, or do we need a January transfer window just to maybe prop up a couple of the positions?
I'm not going to be like flip-flopping with it. I think we've said this before on the Leeds reviews, and some of the gaps in the squad are still highlighted. We still need a 10. We definitely need a left back. I think when we won the league last under Bielsa, we had games and weeks like this where we would struggle against the low blocks. The difference then is we had Pablo Hernandez, who would unpick the lock once and we'd win 1-0, or we'd win 2-1. We'd find a way to get over the line. And so often we quite haven't got that. Rather than get back into the game, we should be able to go again, really, and unpick that lock and finish off the game. And we don't, at the moment, just don't quite have that. Somerville is obviously, I thought it was excellent from what I've seen the other night, but his decision making, especially when he's in them central areas, the pass that he picks is so often the wrong one when you're in them key moments of the game. And that's the difference that Hernandez made in them games. The games against the teams that come at us, I don't think we've got that much concern, because we've got enough quality to then make the right decision with big open spaces in front of us. But when you need to thread the needle, if you like, we struggle in them moments against the likes of Rotherham, Sheffield Wednesday. I think that's the way to play against us. I think if you can come out of the traps and really hurt teams, like we did against Town, like we did against Watford as well, then teams at times have no answer for us. But it's all about being clinical. And yeah, we absolutely, I think, in January need to go out and I think they will. I definitely think they will. I think they go out and sign a 10. I'm not sure on a left back, because I think Farker likes Sam Byram and then sees Firpo as being able to do a job there. But the fullback positions are vital for us, and I still think we've not seen the best of us because we've not had as first choice fullbacks in there, really. I think Spence makes such a difference to this team. He's the best right back in the division when he's fully fit. We've seen it only 2 seasons ago, so I'm keen to get him in. But yeah, just a few frustrating moments, and we're not the finished article, but we, in terms of the points total that we're on, again, it would still be very good had we not been a season where Ipswich and Leicester had the starts that they'd had. So,
Exactly. Please do pop a like on the video, get your comments in as well. As Dav mentioned there, thanks Huddersfield, cracking point against Southampton. Well, let's move on to the Terriers now. Steve, as Dav says, a cracking point against Southampton.
Yeah, well, just to go back on what Jay said about coming out and playing against Leeds, we didn't come out and play against you. We were just crap. That's why you beat us so convincingly.
Town didn't sit in though, did they? Just to kind of follow on with that, Town didn't sit back, and Town did actually try to, I think, go forward.
No, we didn't.
And I think that
we were just crap. We were just crap.
I mean, maybe they were, but they certainly didn't sit in with a low block, and that's what we struggle with, especially away from home.
We didn't do anything. But anyway, on Southampton, happy weeks. Southampton, great result. Obviously, I was fearing the worst. Well, I kind of was, and I wasn't, because Russell Martin, I've described many times on this podcast, alone in the last season, his teams are like a speedboat with the left paddle broken, so they just go round and round in a circle. It's a very nice speedboat, and it costs a lot of money, but it doesn't go anywhere. And that's kind of what happened on Saturday, to be honest. In the first half, they had 82% possession. We had 19. They created quite a number of chances, but nothing, I would say, massively dangerous, except for the couple of odd strikes, and obviously, eventually Armstrong got his goal, but we kind of tended to go on the break, to be honest, which was working quite well, but we just didn't take our chances. Karoma, I mean, he had a golden opportunity, and because he doesn't shoot or do anything on his left foot, he tried to cut back inside and strike it with his right foot, and obviously then he just got cleared away. And it was so frustrating, because if we'd have made more of them chances, We could have really gone in, probably undeservedly, but in at half-time, leading. Obviously, then the second half, there's a bit more energy. There's a different game plan. Kane Harrott had to come off early, so he put Yuta Nakayama on at left back and sort of shoved Karoma into the middle with Thomas, and he put Headley further out wide. And that kind of gave us quite a lot of pace up top, really. And I don't think Southampton could handle it. They seem to be quite good against players that are maybe tricky, but have not real any pace. But obviously these three did have a bit of pace about them, and don't mind running at defenders. And I don't think Southampton like that. So yeah, second half was a lot better. It was just so frustrating in the first half that if he'd have done the second half plan as in the first half, then it'd have been a right game. But we all thought at half time, here we go, it's looking bad. Southampton are going to rip us to bits in the second half, but they didn't. They didn't, to be fair. They hit the post, which was unlucky, and Maxwell played a few good saves. His first league debut, Nichols had a neck injury, I believe. So that was, positive that he had a successful game. I was pleased for him because he seems like a nice lad, comes in, it knows sort of his place as the second choice on the bench, which is what you should have as a goalkeeping sort of development partnership, and where Nichols is the first choice, Maxwell's the second, but he came in and did a job, and we made it difficult for Southampton in the second half. And really, I thought, you can take whatever you want from stats, can't you? But I thought, being at the game, we were the better team really in the second half, and Southampton didn't like it. And it's just a typical Russell Martin thing where, 1 week they're blasting teams away 4-0 and whatever and playing some absolutely golden football, and then the next week it doesn't quite come off. But I think that was a big point for Darren Moore, myself, and fans went away from the stadium, quite pleased really. Ben Jackson, what a fantastic player he is, by the way. Young fullback, very attacking. Reminds me a lot of Jack Hunt, really, but probably a little bit better defensively. And so, yeah, I enjoyed the game Saturday after fearing the worst.
Yeah, I did see more after praising Jackson as well, and he's an academy product as well. Any more coming through like him, Steve?
Well, we've got obviously Diarra, Jackson. There's a lot of players at the moment. We're so thin on the ground in terms of injuries. Ward was out again, although he was supposed to start, but he fell ill. Kane Harrott had to go off. Obviously, he's an academy product. Diarra, Edmonds Green's come through the academy. Ben Jackson. Who else? We got quite a number on the bench. So because of the way the squad's so thin, a number of the B team / now academy players are having to step up. Josh Osterfield's a very good talent who has played a number of matches so far. So yeah, there's a number of players there that can do something. But the problem we have at Town is that you're relying on these youngsters to step up and play way above themselves in what I still believe is the hardest championship season ever. So it's difficult, isn't it? I think we need quite a lot of players in January, but that's just my opinion.
Darren, sorry, go ahead, Gaz.
I was just going to ask him where he stands on Darren Moore, because you were saying the other night that you're moving towards the more out category. Are you still there, or has your point against Staff started to change your mind? And is it true that he's had a worse start than Fotheringham? Because we were talking about that the other night, well, weren't we?
He couldn't help himself, could he, Steve?
No, well, the thing is, though, statistically, he did have a worse start than Rob Fotheringham, which is pretty impressive on its own, to be fair. and he's only still won 1 game out of 10 games. So, if we look at it, if you look at the whole thing in Darren Moore's time, good second half against Coventry, good 70 minutes against Ipswich, good second half against Southampton, and a decent point. that he's got in the other win against QPR, although that was a terrible performance. The other games have been absolutely abysmal. I mean, Birmingham lost 4, Leeds were atrocious, Cardiff disgustingly atrocious, and then Sheffield Wednesday, very poor result. Although it was a draw, it was a very poor game. Watford, nothing happened. And then Hull, he comes out and he says, we limited them to chances and they had 20 shots on goal. So, it's difficult, Gaz, because I understand he's being given a 3-year contract and he's 2 months in, so he's not going to get sacked. Yeah. I also appreciate that he hasn't had a transfer window. So let's give him a transfer window. But the club is so on a knife edge to it can go one way or another. I don't feel as comfortable as what I would have done with Warnock. But I suppose that's just because Warnock's a comfort blanket. You know what I mean? And it's difficult. I want Darren to succeed. He's a nice bloke. What I don't like is that he still don't go clap the fans at the end of the game. And I've got a young lad in front of me. He's a really nice chap. He's Aidan, who might be watching. Hi, Aidan, if you are. And he goes, well, why would he clap if, fans are chanting him out? And I said, yeah, that's not the point, though. Like, that is just not the point. The point is you still go over and you appreciate, even if there's only 300 fans travelling, you go over and just say, thanks for coming. All right, we're a crap performance. Or like on Saturday, I didn't see him going around the ground after the game. And like loads of people stayed back and clapped the lads off the field because they deserved it. I'll be honest. I say I stay back. I stay to the end of every game that I go to. And I'll say at the end whether they deserve a clap or not. And on Saturday, they deserved a clap. Now, we as supporters got really behind him Saturday. Even though he's had a bad start, fans are just not sure of him. And there's a lot of discontent. But the supporters in the second half really got behind him and cheered the team on and made a big difference. And I just think at the end of the game, it takes him 2 minutes to go down the stand and say thanks very much. So that's what I don't like about him. What I do like about him, though, is that he's a nice bloke and he clearly has the players on side, and they clearly in the second half put a real shift in and really built something. Whether they can go on to that on tomorrow, Wednesday night against Sunderland, if we go up there and tough in lose 4-0 again, then you're back to square one, aren't you? So
I totally agree about clapping fans afterwards. I mean, I were at Tranmere when Hughes' last game, and it was horrendous. It was you getting sacked in the morning. It were effing this, effing that, and he still came over and clapped them. Now, whether that would have shown defiance and just sort of sticking up the finger, I don't know. But he did it, and he did it as well. Do you know what I mean? And he were getting dogs abuse, but he came over and clapped. I totally agree.
That's the class of the man. No. That's why he's on the back of the shirt. There he is. Come on,
But that's just, I understand what Aidan, my mate's saying, that why would he come over? But you've still, it's just a part of the game that you have to, I think, you've got to do. And you've got to have respect to fans that pay the money every week to go and sit. And for 10 games, we've watched crap. We've watched rubbish football. Even the game that we won, it was rubbish. So...
is he fed up of his? Is he getting fed up of his nice guy image or something? Because that's all I ever hear about Darren Moore. What a nice guy! I don't know if he's thinking, stuff it.
Well, no, unfortunately, that's not going to work with Town fans because they'll just hound him out like them. You know what I mean? So we're not speaking about a little club like Harrogate Town here. You know what I mean? But again, my mate. And he goes, oh, well, who would you get in if you sacked Darren Moore? Would you have Steve Evans in? Because he's doing quite well at Stevenage. No, I wouldn't. I mean, that's just a laughable. Like, to me, yes, he's doing well at Stevenage, but Steve Evans is not a character that I want anywhere near my football club. He might be doing well at Stevenage, but Stevenage is not Huddersfield Town Football Club, whatever Jay thinks about Town.
It's
you know what I mean?
We have to every time City job comes up, and obviously
it's you lot, no.
No, but
he were athletes, weren't he?
Yeah,
with his sombrero.
Oh. Yeah, but yeah, in answer to your question, guys, I know I've gone around the houses a bit. Yes, I'm giving him still time, and I'm not totally 100% out yet. But by God, he's got a second half against Southampton. Is a crumb of comfort compared to what he's got to go to convince me.
Fair news. Well, let's move it on now to Bradford City in the Bantams. It was Graham Alexander's first win, another new manager in the area. Gaz, what was the atmosphere like before the game? Obviously, a while since you guys won in the league, and you're kind of looking over your shoulder the wrong way down the table. What was the mood like before the game?
I don't know. Like as a whole, to be honest, like you said, we'd won in the Bristol Street Motors Trophy 5-1 the night before, the midweek before, and the previous league game, although Alexander hadn't won in the league and we'd got done 4-2 at Notts County, the second half at Notts County had seen a big improvement. So it was like a game and a half where there'd been improvement. He talked about winning the second half at Notts County and winning the midweek game in the Bristol Street Motors Trophy. Personally, I'm from Accrington. I live in Accrington, and I know what Accrington are like, and I knew it was going to be a tough game. John Coleman and Accrington together are just an absolute nightmare to play against, and I knew and they were doing well as well. They were on a good run. I think they were in the last playoff spot. I think they still might be in it actually, even though we beat them on Saturday. But yeah, I was concerned because it's not the sort of team you want to play against when you need a win. But yeah, the positivity's continued. We've sort of won 2.5 games now, if you will, on the trot, and we need to build on it because it's still only one league win, and we've got Forest Green away tomorrow night. Having lost away at Sutton and lost away at Tranmere, we can't lose away at Forest Green as well. So we need to build on it.
Yeah, Tyler Smith's winner, a touch of Naki Wells, as I read in some match reports there, and it's a fine goal. If you've not seen it, it's a really lovely goal. Him and Cook could be the new partnership, a bit resembling Hansen and Naki Wells from years gone by. What do you think? I mean, he's playing two up front. Obviously, it's a different dynamic. It's not just Cook up there on his own anymore. Is it working? Has it got a future, do you think, Gaz?
It's definitely been, quite obviously, it's more positive, isn't it? I mean, City have been playing one up front for so long now with this 4-2-3-1 that I didn't think there were any other way of playing until Hughes tried that 3-5-2 at the start of the season and got it drastically wrong. As for Tyler Smith, I've not been convinced at all so far this season. I haven't sort of seen what he's got to offer. He's been pretty much runs around a lot, but doesn't really contribute, I've always thought. But yeah, it was his second league goal on Saturday. His other goals have come in Bristol Street Motors Trophy when he's been playing as sort of the second string 11, and he got a goal in the League Cup as well. I think that were a penalty. But if you actually look at his last 6 games, he's got 6 in 6. So, you've got to give him a chance based on that. I still think that Jake Young will come back in January. You can't not bring him back when he's banging goals in like he's at Swindon. And then it'll be a case of who it is, whether it's Smith, depending on how well he's done up to January, or whether it's Young that'll partner Cook. We've also got Verdane Oliver back fit now, which is massive, because I'm sure that Cook hasn't been fit for a while, and he's playing 90 minutes every game. So we're having Verdane Oliver back on the bench. He was on the bench midweek. He was on the bench again on Saturday. That's going to be a bonus. So things are looking more positive. We've got more options going forward, and we're playing a more attacking style of play with 2 up front. So yeah, you've got to be pleased with that at the moment, really.
Watching some of the highlights, it seemed, shall we put it, direct, or certainly more direct than what was under the previous regime. But that's kind of what you argued, when Mark Hughes was there, the fact that, you've got to get up and at them in League Two. Are we starting to see that style emerge, and do you think it'll be successful going forward?
Yeah, I think we've wanted that because Hughes, it was passing for passing's sake. I don't necessarily always think that direct football means poor football. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I think if you're playing at a high tempo and with a high press, it doesn't matter how you get the ball forward. And Parkinson were always really direct, and it worked. And we played at a high tempo. And if you knew if we would have behind in that second half, we were going to have a bloody good go, and we always did. And I see Alexander. I see a lot of. I'm not saying he's going to be like Phil Parkinson. He reminds me a little bit of a poor man's Phil Parkinson. And if he can achieve half of what Phil did, then great stuff. I mean, the game on Saturday, I was saying before that I don't think that direct football is necessarily awful football. It weren't a great game on Saturday. It was very attritional. There weren't many chances. Pretty boring at times, and it was just a game that we needed to win. But you can play direct football, and you can be entertained watching direct football. So I'm not necessarily against that. And if like I say, if Graham Alexander's come to play that, which I think he has, and it's definitely going to be refreshing to what we saw under Mark Hughes, then I think the fans will get behind it.
Yeah. Are you? Sorry, yeah. Go ahead, Jess.
I think like direct football's like it's all about what you do in the second phase, isn't it? So like it's not about just the long punt to the target man. It's about then what happens then off that. So whether it's a winger that runs off a Cook or whoever else that's flicking the ball on or going in for that first challenge, getting attacking midfielders in and around. Because then when the ball's down in that area of the pitch, you're at very little chance of conceding because you're as far away from your goal as you can be. So you can still then potentially do, something that is entertaining to watch. You can still risk losing the ball in them areas of the pitch. I think a lot of fans kind of get lost in that. Like, they think it's just a long ball to a Peter Crouch type target man who flicks it on and then the next person taps the ball in. That's not what long ball football is. It's putting the ball into a dangerous area of the pitch and also not dangerous to you from the defensive front. And that's why you see it more in League Two, because the intricacies of making the ball go from defence to attack become harder and harder and harder the more passes that you play. So when you then have to go through the midfield where you've not got as many technically gifted players, you find it more difficult to do. That's why as you go up the ladder, you see that happening more and more and more. So I think League Two football, it is what it is. Like the players are not as technically gifted. So why would you try and make it more difficult for yourself? We spoke about Mark Hughes overcomplicating things before. I think you can sometimes know too much. And I think that's the right way to go about it.
Yeah, sorry, go on, Steve.
The thing I was going to say was, right, so you look at Burnley. Burnley's a perfect example, right? Sean Dyche, when he was at Burnley, always talks about quadrants, second half. So if you split the attack in half into like 4 quadrants and you play a long ball into, say, a Chris Wood, right? Chris Wood is not a Peter Crouch, but he's a big centre forward, can win a header, can hold the ball up. So he wins it in the latter quadrant near to the corner flag. You then pack that quadrant out with as many players as you can from your midfield, your fullback, your winger type areas. You wing the second ball, and then you go from there. And that's why he was successful, particularly at Burnley in that time when they were getting to like 9th, 10th, 7th in the Premier League, because teams couldn't handle the physicality of them playing in those quadrants. And that's why it was successful. Now, Burnley's a very different side compared to, the majority at Championship and Premier League level. But if you go down the bottom end of League One and into League Two, the majority of sides, like Jay says, they don't have the technically gifted players. Teams only have 1 or 2 to play the style that Mark Hughes has. And that was the problem with Hughes. He thought you could transfer what he'd done, even though he'd done it at Stoke and Man City, to an extent where he played quite okay football, even though you probably ask Stoke fans and Man City fans and they'd tell you that he didn't. But at the time, it was okay. But he transitioned that going into a division he'd never worked in, didn't know the players, and that's why it failed. And that's why you hear horror stories. You go back years of like Glenn Hoddle. Yes, all right, he did well at Swindon, but that was a piece of luck. He didn't do well anywhere else, did he? Really, in terms of management. And the lower down your divisions that you go, the harder it is. And so I like what Graham Alexander is. I think he's a very competent manager at League Two level. He's probably not going to get you further than midway through League One, although, he had a good go with Scunthorpe. And if you get to the same level as what he got that Scunthorpe team at the time, then I think you'll be in a great position. But it's going to take some hard work. It's going to take some smart recruitment, a little bit of money, and time. And that's what my thoughts are really on Alexander.
The biggest killer to a team is when you lose the ball in bad positions, especially the lower down the ladder you go, because the turnover of play snaps and you're quickly going back the other way. And when, again, you've got less technically gifted players trying to make them decisions, a player like Richie Smallwood, as an example, is probably a great example of this. He's been asked to do things that he's just probably nowhere near capable of doing. And we could talk about his attitude and all the rest of it, but if you're asked to go out there and try and perform something that you're just not able to week in, week out, I'd get pissed off as well. So, I think aiming to lose, potentially turn over possession in less dangerous areas is massive in League Two. Some teams, I've heard coaches say, right, we're going to play, Steve mentions about quadrants, we're going to play towards them throwing lines, and at least if we don't win the ball, it's going to go out for a throw-in. So then you will play off their throw-in. We'll pen them in there, and we'll keep them in that area of the pitch. It sounds basic, but it works. Again, especially the lower down the ladder you go.
It's interesting because you're saying exactly what City fans were saying about Mark Hughes. He was trying to play Premiership football with League Two footballers. That was the thing, the stick that people were beating him with all the time, and it's turned out to be true because, again, you mentioned Richie Smallwood there. I was talking to Sir Brownie before the show started, and I was saying how Smallwood, he just looked completely disinterested. He looked like he'd lost his way under Hughes. His attitude looked wrong. He got dropped at bench. And since McDonald took over temporarily, and then since Alexander came in, he's looked like the player that we thought we were getting last season. And I think it's probably that. It's just that he's been asked to do what he's good at rather than things that he's not good at. And I thought on Saturday that him and Gilead in the middle, and then the two wing-backs, obviously when you're playing 3-5-2, your wing-backs have got an awful lot of work to do. But the two wing-backs in Brad Halliday and Lewis Richards, and then the two centre-mids, Gilead and Smallwood, I thought they were all outstanding on Saturday. I really did.
Championship football 2 seasons ago, Richie Smallwood. Yeah. I couldn't believe, I mean, I know he's probably not a championship footballer. Don't get me wrong, he's probably a League One footballer. But when I'd seen that Bradford had signed him, I thought, what a signing. I mean, he'd taken a 2-division drop to go and sign for Bradford. And, he really should be a player that you're building a team around at League Two level, really.
And you could see that last season he were getting asked to be a playmaker. I don't think he's ever been a playmaker.
Yeah.
He's a player.
Yeah,
he's somebody else. That's
ball winner. He's a ball winning midfielder.
He's like Hoggy. He's like
when he'll pick the ball. What he is good at on the ball, and you see him do it. He picks it, and it's the quick switch. So he'll quickly take it, turn, and switch it long, and he can do that. But not a lot else. You don't want him playing nice, intricate little passes. He's not quick enough to cover the ground either. His job is winning the ball and giving it to somebody else, or playing that long ball, and it works. And it's been good for him since McDonald's come in and since Alexander's come in.
He's exactly like Hoggy at Town. You wouldn't ask Hoggy to do a little intricate pass and then play a 40-yard ball. Like, that's just not in his capabilities. But what he will do is he'll win the ball back, play it simple to the centre-back, or like you've just said, Gaz, he does the exact same thing. He spreads it out wide and gets it to the full-back. So it's not in his position. He's not... What Hoggy don't want to be is in possession for the ball for 2 minutes. What Hoggy wants is quick, get it rid of it, right, then I'll go in and steamboat somebody and probably get a yellow card. And that's what Richie Smallwood is for you. He's the same exact type of player. You don't want him on the ball, but what you do want him is G'ing up the other players. You want him to be a captain, you want him to be a leader, and you also want him to be a motivator and make sure that if there are young lads around him, like Hoggy's got in our team, or not as gifted players like what's probably in Bradford's team, then he can guide those players through the entire match. And that's what he's in the team to do. And he's played for good sides in the Championship. He's not played for crap clubs. I mean, so he must have something about him, mustn't he? You know what I mean?
We do look like we're getting the Smallwood that there were times last season when he did it, but there were times when he would have to do stuff that he couldn't do. And I do feel like he's looked a lot better under McDonald and Alexander, 100%. I also think, just going back to Tyler Smith, having someone up there with him's really helped him because he struggled a bit this season, obviously with his fitness and probably the pressure of having to score all the goals after what he did last season, and just having someone up there with him has helped him a lot, do a lot of the running for him. He's also dropping a bit deeper to win the ball and stuff like we talked about before, flick it on for Tyler Smith. I think that's helped. And the last couple of games with this 3-5-2, we've had Smallwood sort of as the 6, and then we've had 2 8s playing, and Gilead's been an 8. And it was the other 8 on Saturday. I think off the top of my head, I can't remember who the other 8 was on Saturday. But anyway, we've had the 2 8s ahead of, like in the 3 in the middle with Smallwood. and it's really worked. And I think that'll be ideal for when Alex Patterson comes back as well, because that's his position, and he was brilliant at the start of the season. Obviously, he's been injured for a while now, but that role's made for him when he comes back in.
He's a clever manager, is Alexander. He just knows how to go into a football club and change the ethos. I thought it was such a smart appointment from you guys. Like, if the City fans get behind him and they can get something going there, I don't see why he can't not succeed. I always worried about Hughes. I wasn't convinced, but with Alexander, we know him, what he did at Scunny and what he's done at other clubs. Even if it's not been as successful, I think you're in safe hands myself.
I hope so. Jamie Walker, other number 8, who's normally plays as a 10, but he's been dropped down and played more deeper as an 8, and he's looked up there as well. He's another player who's probably a little bit too good for League Two if he can stay fit. But yeah, I agree. I think Alexander's probably gone the other way about it to what Hughes did really. Hughes obviously ditched 3-5-2 and went back to 4-2-3-1, and Alexander's gone the other way, and he's got it working. And Mark Hughes is probably sat at home thinking, why wasn't it working for me? But it's not working for it. Weren't working for him because he was trying to play Premier League football with League Two players, whereas Alexander's simplified it, and it's working in that way.
I really like Jamie Walker. I think he's a top player. I saw him play in Scotland. He were at Aberdeen, wasn't he? I think it was before he came out.
He was at Hearts. He might have been at Aberdeen as well.
No, it was Hearts. He's a top player. And I remember when he first came into City, he totally changed. I mean, he kind of carried you for a few months, didn't he? He's a top player. Really good player.
His main problem is staying fit because he's that type of player who's probably a little bit too good. He gets kicked a lot. He gets kicked a lot, and then he's out for a month or two. And also, but he puts it about as well. You know, you kick him, he'll kick you back. Do you know what I mean? Which is obviously quite good. But then he picks up a booking and gets suspended. So, but yeah,
but that's why Smallwood comes in.
Yeah.
He does it for you.
That's why Smallwood. If anybody kicks Walker, well, Smallwood should be there to that. Well, hang on, don't kick him. Come and have a go with me if you think you're hard enough. That's what Hoggy does.
Indeed. Looking ahead then to the next match, Leeds, it's Swansea on Wednesday night. Jason, how do you see that one going, mate?
I'm just going to say, have you just seen that they've signed Yannick Bolasie?
No.
Swansea. Swansea. They've just signed him on a short-term deal, from whichever Turkish club we were playing at. And the highlights are banging about when he did Luke Ayling for playing for Villa a few years ago. He was some player, wasn't he?
He's like 42 now, isn't he?
I think he's mid-30s. Yeah, mid-30s.
I hate things like this happening before we play them.
Didn't Everton pay like 30 million for him?
Yeah, they paid a lot of money for him, didn't they?
I mean, Everton paid a lot of money for a lot of rubbish players.
That's true. He was some player, though. He was a flair player, wasn't he, for sure?
He was great at Palace. Him and who was on the other wing at Palace? There was him and the other kid who they had them both flying. Yeah,
Wayne Routledge. God,
yeah, could have been Routledge.
Yeah. They had a few, didn't they? They've had a few players like that over the years of Palace. But Dan James going back to Swansea, Brownie. So, look, it could be the other way. You know, let it be our story. I think at home, I don't think we've got too much to worry about. And Swansea are incredibly inconsistent. 2-0 up against Hull the other day and ended up throwing it away to draw 2-2. They're probably more concerned with what's behind them than what's in front of them at the moment, staying away from that bottom three. I don't think they'll get dragged into it. I think they've got too much, but Pirro going back against them as well. I would imagine that he's probably keen to have a good game. I fully expect us to win on Wednesday, and then we've got an extremely tough game at the weekend against Borough. So I think it's really, really important that we win Wednesday night to kind of shake off the Rotherham game. And every time that we've kind of had them games against a Rotherham or a Sheffield Wednesday, we've reacted well in the following game. Still undefeated at home all season. We're undefeated in 8 as well. Like we shouldn't forget that. Not every week's going to be bliss and perfect. So hopefully a huge 3 points on Wednesday. Hopefully we see Jed Spence. I really want to see Jed Spence. I really want to see Pascal back in. I think Cooper, Ayling, and Bamford. I think
what's Byram? Is Byram back or what?
Well, it was on the bet. I just think Byram's managing his minutes, isn't he? I think Farke has to pick and choose when he plays. And should he have to play Byram away at Rotherham? No, not really. The players that are out there should be able to win that game without him. I get it. I'd rather him miss one game to then come back in than play and then be injured for 3, 4, 5 weeks, especially coming up to Christmas. We're going to need him. But we can't be relying on Junior every week. I mean, for me, I would have a left back lined up on the 1st of January, and then the minutes are shared between him and Byram, whoever the left back would be, and Firpo would be on first playing out to whichever Spanish club are taking. Because, guys, I'm telling you, you won't take him at City. You won't. He's terrible.
I'd take him over Jake Edwards.
You won't, mate. You won't.
I would.
See, like this guy obviously comes with a reputation of playing for Barcelona and Betis and whatnot. And whatever happened to him at Barca, he's not the player that he was at Betis. But I'm telling you, defensively, Steve tweeted me something on Twitter the other day, basically, which echoed exactly what I was saying. Defensively, his abilities, technique that he shows is so amateurish. If I was to be watching Campion, I'd be like, Jesus Christ, he's terrible defensively. No, I'm being deadly serious. I'm not just saying this to like kind of extreme my point. He's so bad. He squares up. He just runs wrong. He twists and turns his own body. He loses positioning. When he's without the ball, he's 5 or 10 yards out of position all the time defensively. He's just so bad. He's so bad. He's like dropping a striker in at left back. That's what it's like to watch him defensively. He's so bad.
Makes you wonder what happened to him, doesn't it? If he's like played for like you say, he's not the player he was at Betis. It makes you wonder what's happened to him.
I mean, I obviously laud Bielsa, but I cannot believe that Bielsa ever watched like videos of him defensively or like thought, I authorised that signing. I just don't get it.
I want to say my little thing here, but because we need to end early. It's fine.
You know, like if I had like 10 minutes with Bielsa, right? I'd spend 8 minutes talking to him about how brilliant he is, right? And getting as much out of him as I could. And then I would spend 2 minutes and I'd say, what did you see that made you sign Junior Firpo? Like,
he's not that.
I'd give him one of our shirts and I'd say, what the hell were you doing signing Junior Firpo, for goodness sake?
It's so bad.
Because he's not as good as manager as what you make out. But anyway, never mind.
Give over.
Stop it. Apart from that, Cooper, Ayling, Bamford, they need to be just kept as far away from the team as possible right now. Because I feel like every interaction that they bring to the team it's just unfortunately a negative content. And I don't even think Coops had that bad of a game the other day. It's just, it hinders our whole style.
Yeah. So. Steve, Sunderland away Wednesday. What are you thinking, mate?
I just fear every game. I fear every game. The thing is with Sunderland, right? They've not been as good as what they were last year, which is surprising because I thought Mowbray was going to kick them on. But they are 9th in the league. They've had weird results so far. A couple of games, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, they lost 4-0 to Borough, which was surprising. But I think that's when Borough started to really crack on.
They got players sent off as well, didn't they?
Yeah, so that's a dodgy result. They only just lost to Leicester a couple of weeks ago, and so they've had some tight results. Norwich have won convincingly well. So yeah, it's going to be a very difficult game up there. They've got some extremely good players, but they're not as technically gifted as Southampton. So my caveat with Sunderland is, if we put in the second half performance we did against Southampton up there in Sunderland for 90 minutes, we might get something out of the game. But if we turn up and we play and we just let them dominate, it'll be another Leeds, because they have got the players to rip us to bits. So I'm a bit worried, but hopefully, fingers crossed, Southampton's second half with a bit of a springboard. We might get some players back. Bergzorg might be fitter. Danny Ward might come back. Ben Wiles might come back into the team, hopefully. Lee Nichols, hopefully, will be fit. So, we'll get more of our first team back and hopefully we might do something. But I'm still a bit nervous, so I'll still go for a 3-0 defeat.
After all that.
Gaz, Forest Green, Tuesday night, their second bottom. Do you fancy it?
Not really. No, we were talking again before, weren't we, about how City always struggle against teams that are down at the bottom, and we've already lost to Sutton and Tranmere away this season. We can't go to Forest Green and lose as well. I think this is going to be telling as to whether we've really turned a corner under Alexander or whether it's going to be another false dawn. What worries me a little bit is that the same players are having to play a lot of the games at the moment because despite our squad being absolutely massive, half of them just aren't good enough. So he's going to be relying on certain players who are probably going to be shattered after Saturday. There's players that you'd probably want to rest that he won't be able to. But yeah, it'll be a tough game because they're scrapping out. They're down at bottom, and obviously we're only a few points above them. I think we moved a little bit away, moved up to 14th on Saturday after that win, but we need to be looking upwards rather than downwards. And this is the point in which I'm probably going to look at it and say, yeah, have we turned a corner or have we not? Just can't lose the game. Draw will probably be all right, but we really need to be winning it if we want to be moving up the table.
Brilliant. Just before we go, just a quick word. Terry Venables passed away yesterday. It was announced. Former England manager, former Leeds manager as well, but not really what he's remembered for. He had a bit of a difficult time at Leeds. Obviously, the carpet was pulled from under him, certainly when he was at the club. But for me, a defining kind of memory from my youth as a football fan is Euro '96. I don't know about you guys. I know we're varying ages in the group here, but what a figure, what a titan really of British football.
And with you, Brownie, Euro '96, it was just a pin. I were 12, 13 in Euro 13 in Euro '96, and it was just brilliant. It was absolute. That summer were fantastic, and he came so close to bringing football home. And I do believe that obviously if Gazza had them size 9.5 something, and we'd have won that, we'd have won that competition, and he'd have been the first. He would just, and everyone speaks so highly of him. So God rest him, and God bless.
I think he, for me, kind of typifies that era of football, the 90s, El and Bobby Robson, and there are a few that kind of fall under that kind of banner of being the old style English manager that almost brought beautiful football to what was the Premier League when it first started, and obviously his time at Leeds wasn't particularly great, but yeah, as you say, wouldn't have been remembered for that. I do remember him looking quite good in the all blue tracksuit, however, because for me,
he'll pull it off, couldn't he?
Yeah, well, I remember the O'Leary days, obviously, but I was like, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, and then I think O'Leary got sacked when I was 12, 13, something like that. So the first manager that I really remember after that is Terry Venables. I remember how much of a big deal it was that we'd got him as manager at the time. It were a massive, massive kind of coup for us at the time, and obviously it went terrible wrong, and then Peter Reid came in after that. So we went through a couple of nostalgic top level English managers at the time. So yeah, as Gaz says, rest in peace, bless him.
Yeah, indeed.
I was being born in Euro '96, so I don't remember him as England manager. In fact, I think I was just about to be to come into the world as Gazza missed that chance, but.
You should have been called Terry, really, shouldn't you?
Well, some people call me an old rogue like Eltel. No, honestly, a manager that spoke well, a proper football manager that knew players, how to deal with players, a gentleman of the game, likes of Bobby Robson. I echo what Gaz and Jay said. You don't get English managers like him anymore, or like that breed. As much as what Graham Taylor was hounded out of England, a proper gent. Please, I urge you to go and watch the Elton John thing on BBC iPlayer, the interview he's done with Gary Lineker, because that just tells you about another sort of magical English manager like Terry Venables, and what he did at Spurs, and I know it didn't work out at Leeds. What he did at Barcelona. To have a picture, I don't know if you've seen it on social media, where two Barcelona players are holding Terry Venables up, and a 15-year-old Pep Guardiola standing behind him going, oh my God, I want to be this guy when I'm older. And now what Pep's doing now, that tells you what Terry Venables had on the people around him. And we've lost another giant of the game like we have over the last couple of years. So rip to him, and hope he's resting in peace up there. And just such a shame that we just didn't win Euro '96, because I agree. I wish I'd have been sat in that stadium singing the national anthem that day, because it'd have been just whoever were there must have been one of the proudest days being sat in a football stadium ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Indeed. Good stuff. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll be back later in the week. But if you've enjoyed watching the video, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and you'll also be able to listen again to the episode as a podcast on Spotify. So until we see you again, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.